tryouts are next week, whatever, and then we're going to be going into off season for a lot of these guys, a lot of these OHL kids. NCAA guys are coming back. I'm getting our texts from the college guys that are coming home. So I want you to talk a little bit about kind of off season planning, and then maybe coming up with a few different tips on how you would focus your attention, like deciding what to work on, when to work on it, and just some general thoughts about that.
Yeah. Okay, so whether you're on the ice or off the ice, it's kind of gonna somewhat correlate, right? So if you're getting ready to start your off season, or is this before tryouts or no?
Well, we can say it's after tryouts.
Okay, it's after tryouts because it makes more sense. You got more time. The number one thing to me is to have a purpose. So, because I think it's very common for people to blindly go out there and feel that going to the gym is going to make them better, like is the right thing to do. Let's just put it that way. But if you're going to the gym and it's not benefiting you, now I'm not talking about a 12-year-old, but I mean, there's some general things there, but we're talking about kids that can identify that, oh, maybe they're really fast, but they're not strong. So working on being fast might not be the thing that they need. You got to continue to be fast, but you got to make sure maybe I got to get strong as well. And if it's on the ice, it's probably going to be similar, right? If I'm really fast but not strong, or really strong but not fast, I have to have a purpose. So that'd be number one, is to have a purpose. So if we're going on, so you can say, all right, so if I go on the ice and the guy that I train with or the people that I train with, I need to work on something, but it's just drills, let's say, just doing drills. Well, you can still have a purpose. So I just wrote a couple of things down here. So if you go on the ice, every drill starts with what? A standing still, basically, or a beginning.
You have to start moving.
Yeah, you have to get yourself going. So I think a really good intention is, if you have a purpose of going right, if you go to, you said this with jiu-jitsu, right? If you go there and you just do jiu-jitsu, you don't learn as much as if you went in there and say, okay, I want to get X done today. I want to figure something out. So it's the same thing as going to a practice, going to the gym. It's like, I actually want to do this. So let's just say it's quickness today. So every drill starts with having to get yourself moving. So if you have an intention of going there and saying, every drill, I'm going to get like 1, 2, 3. I'm going to get some pop out of that step. And even though you might be doing it wrong, even though you might be, the technique could be better and you're not getting like coached through it, you can have the intent of accelerating or having that first 7 feet or 5 feet coming out very quickly. And if you do that for every drill or for every stop and start and stuff, you're working on something with a purpose, right? Your mind-muscle connection is working. It's no different than, I learned from Charles Poliquin, who was a strength trainer. He said it's when you're doing heavy weights and you're trying to work on speed, it's not necessarily that, let's say you're squatting and you want to come up quick, but you got a lot of weight on the wire. It's not that you're moving it fast. It's the intention of moving it fast. Your head, your body, like your brain-body connection is like you're trying to get up there as fast as you can. That's the most important thing. So that relates to obviously the skating piece as well. It could be, say skating is not your issue. I mean, you could always make it better. But let's say it's shooting, so you got a really good shot. Well, maybe it's not as accurate. So maybe it's every time you're shooting a puck, you're shooting not, because you see this in practice in games even. You see it like you get a shot on net just to get a shot on net. But what was if you practiced on 1 or 2 spots on the net all practice, whether it was a good shot or a bad shot, and you just find that sweet spot for you, so that when you're under pressure, that's where the puck goes, that you can nail it. Right? But if you shoot with intention like that, then your shot has an intent to it, which could, you're focused on it, which will probably give you better results, right? If so, maybe it's accuracy. Maybe you're very accurate, but it's not hard enough. So you got to work on, I want to get it off hard, clean. Maybe it's with my feet moving, whatever. There's a lot of different ways that you can do it, right? Like maybe when you're shooting, the goalies or the defenseman can see, okay, the shot's coming off. So maybe it's learning how to hide that puck. Maybe it's learning how to create a little bit of deception. But having that deception every time you do something, or 90% of the time, or whatever, there's one way to make yourself a little bit better. So, yeah, anyways, you can just get a little bit better all the time. It just makes a big difference.
Yeah, I think.
Did you have something to add to that?
Yeah, my thing. I think kind of what you're saying with all this stuff is that's like first step for off season stuff. Like to have a purpose is you need to know which thing you're missing. So I had a question uh, at the academy the other day is, and we, it's funny, simple. It sounds like an easy question. So the guy asked, "How do I get faster?" Right, which is like the worst question ever because what do you mean? So it ended up. It took us probably like 5 hour long lecture times for me to answer that question, right? Because it's like which part of fast, and I think this is again something that we need to teach down the chain to younger kids, and some of it is just they just don't they're inexperienced, they don't know how to be specific yet, which is fine, but this is where the teaching part comes in because even at older ages, like even with our junior guys, without I'm not saying me like I'm so great, but without me, they don't actually know which piece they need to work on, So it's important that you have those conversations and explain to them what is the issue. So if a kid says, I want to get faster on the ice, is it because you don't move your feet fast enough? Is it because you don't generate enough force? Like which thing are we talking about here? Is it laterally? Is it when you're turning? Is it coming out of turns? Like which thing is the issue?
Yeah, is
And
it your first 3 steps? Is it top end?
exactly. So because then is it like, okay, that could be a stride mechanics thing, or it could be a turnover thing, or it could be a strength thing, or it could be a depth thing. It could be all these different things. So you need to come up with a process of how to do this. So I was explaining to them in general, which is why it took me so long, how you would get faster in all respects. So the first thing was I was saying to some of the guys, if they say, okay, I need quickness, for example. It's like, okay, you want to work on your first 3 strides. Let's say that's what you say you want to do. So that would be what you were saying at the start of the drill. You start from a standstill. I got to get going. That time is what they want to work on. The best, yeah, the best way to do that is do exactly that thing, right? You do exactly that thing. So I'm going to go on the ice. I'm going to take from the goal line to the top of the circle, and I'm going to hammer out reps of going as fast as I can from here to there. And that's what I'm going to do. Take full rest in between, and I'm working on my quickness now. Well, that only is going to get you so far. And then it's like, okay, I'm 16 and I've been doing this and now I've plateaued. Let's say maybe even you're timing yourself and my time doesn't get any better. So okay, so now we've hit an end point. So now what should I do? Well, when you're 16, you should probably put some muscle on. You probably have to get bigger. So maybe that's the next part. It's like let's put on more tissue so that I can have more units to generate force now. So now I'm switching more to like a strength, force production, power mindset as opposed to just turnover. How fast can I move my feet? So now it's like, okay, I'll do that. So I'll spend some time. Now I got to go to the gym. Now I got to make sure I'm eating. We're still thinking about going fast. That's still the purpose. You put that tissue on and now I need to make sure that tissue can fire. So now I'm going to go into a strength thing where I can make sure I can recruit all those muscle fibers. And then I'm going to go back to the ice after that phase and work on my first 3 strides again and try to get those tissues to fire as fast as possible. And so in whatever 4 minutes I was just talking, we went into big detail on that over whatever 5 lectures, talking about how to get faster if that's what you want to do. So my point of that elaborate sentence is you need to figure out along which point of that curve, if we use being faster as the example, do you need to work on? Because a lot of people say I need to get faster. I need to work on my first three steps. So maybe it's another one of those things though along the arc. Take that to shooting. Take that to skate. Any other part of skating. Take that to passing. Take that to whatever else. So you have to come up with a process that actually makes sense and how can it actually benefit you when you're on the ice, and that takes being specific. The younger you are, the more you can just be general and you can still get better, obviously, and figure it out even just by kind of winging it, which you should do some of that too, is just explore and work on things when you're young. But the older you get, the more advanced you get, the more specific you have to be in order to improve whatever metric, whatever goal, whatever skill you want to improve. So going into the off season, kind of like bringing everything together, there's going to be, there's going to be a piece that I want to work on my top end skill stuff, which is like your flashy highlight reel stuff. But then it's like you need to have dedicated time to the shit you don't want to do, which the things that you probably should do that you don't want to do, and you should have some dedicated time to working on those things. But you have to figure it out, like, and be honest about which part of that you actually need to work on. And some people don't know which questions to ask. That's why it's nice when you have someone that you can talk to, whether it's a coach or a trainer or whatever. But figuring it out, which thing do you actually need to work on, is the most important when you're going into your, let's call it, off season to work on things. You have to know which things are the most important, which things are less important, and then that's how I'm gonna organize what I'm working on. Does that
Right.
kind of make sense? And it was going
Yeah,
on
it makes total
for a
sense to
tear
me.
there for a while.
Makes total sense to me.
Do you have anything to add on that or no?
Well, the next thing I was gonna say is, as we've talked about before, is you have skill buckets, right? We talk about skill buckets, and skill buckets just simply mean that put everything out there that could be a skill. Because you have skating, like you just said. So, what part of my skating is it full or could I get better? Then you can actually take that and say quickness, power, turning, backwards, forward, whatever. But skating in general is say you're a good skater, but it needs to get better. So that you want that skill bucket to be full. But what you want to also do is take the skill buckets that you're not good at all, or needs a lot of work, and you need to spend time on that, and lots of time on that, because the weakest link in your game is gonna catch up to you sometime. Is gonna hurt you.